Okay, this is Eric, and this is my second video on GNU Backgammon, the free backgammon software program. And the first video talked about downloading and installing and just how to play in general. So if you aren't familiar with that yet, then please check out my first video for that. But in this video, I've already played a match, a 5-point match with the computer. I'm Eric black and GNU BG is red, and you can see GNU BG won the match 5-0, 5-point match. So, of course, that's common to lose to the computer. Again, the GNU BG program plays at a world-class level, so it's going to win more often than not if you don't play at a world-class level. And so since most of us don't, you have to expect to lose most of the time, and just try to remember that if you're playing, although it's fun to beat the computer, really we're playing to learn about mistakes and don't get discouraged by losing. So a lot of people, when they lose too many times, they think the computer's cheating, it's getting better dice, but really it's just that the computer makes very few mistakes and we make a lot more. So I've lost 5-0, and so when you at the end of the match, you should see, the whole log over here on the right. It's separated by game by this drop-down menu. So that was game 2, and game 1 is here. So after you've finished with your match, what you want to do is go to the Analyze menu and click Analyze Match or Session. So I've just left this on the default settings. You can see in the lower right progress as it analyzes every move from the match. I'll show you in a second how to change those if you want. And I'm going to come back to this statistics for the match also. So what it does is it goes through your match and analyzes every move, and it highlights the moves where it thinks that you've made a mistake. So you can see I've got plenty of mistakes in this match. Now the color coding for GNU goes like this. If there's a move that you made that it definitely thinks is very bad, then it color codes it with red text. So that's for a checker play. If there's a checker play that it thinks is bad but not necessarily very bad, then it codes that as blue text. And if there's a checker play that it thinks is doubtful, so it's pretty sure that it's a wrong move, then it codes it with green text. So you can see I've got a doubtful checker play in green here, and a couple bad checker plays, a couple of very bad checker plays. Now for cube decisions, uses the same terminology, but it color codes the background of the text. So if you make a cube decision that's considered very bad, it'll give it a bright yellow highlight background color. If your cube decision is bad, it gives it this pink background color. And if your cube decision is just doubtful, it'll be gray. So that's how you tell where your errors are. Let's take a closer look at one of the errors. So I'm going to click on this move here, where I rolled a 4-3, and I moved 24-21, 24-20. So in other words, I moved these two back checkers up. If you're not familiar with the backgammon notation, again, that's in my first video as well, so you might check that out. So I decided when I rolled 4-3 to move these two checkers up to make an advanced anchor on the 21 point and move the other back checker up with the 4. So that was considered a very bad move, coded in red. And let's take a look at down here what all these numbers mean. So this window here shows all the possible moves ranked from best to worst. So the best move was number 1 here, which would have been just 21-14. So if I would have taken this checker on the 21 point and just moved it 4 and 3 to hit the checker on the 14 point. So that's a little more of an offensive move. I decided to make a defensive move, which was a very bad error. So let's talk about how it considers a move doubtful or bad or very bad. Um, that's all based on the equity for the move. And the equity, and without going into too much detail, it can be a complicated um, formula, but without getting too much detail about how it's calculated, it's roughly just how many points you might expect to win out of the current game on average. So at this particular time, if I would have made the best move, here is what my equity would have been, which is minus 0.07, meaning that I'm not, more times than not, I'm going to lose some points, but only 0.07 points on average. Making the move that I made here, you can see that my equity was actually minus 0.236. So on average, I'm losing a whole quarter of a point in here instead of 0.07. So again, those numbers not quite as important as the difference between those two numbers. So the difference between what I moved, which was minus 0.236, and the best move, which was minus 0.07, is this number here, minus 0.167. So that's the difference in the equities, and that is how a move is rated doubtful, bad, or very bad. In another popular program, Extreme Gammon or XG, they call them errors and blunders. And a blunder would be considered, a 0.08 difference in equity. You can see this move that I made was a 0.16, so that would be considered like a double blunder. So in, again, GNU BG terms, 0.08 is considered a bad move, and 0.16 being double blunder in XG terms is considered very bad. So that was a very bad move. You see I've got then a bad move here. That was a 0.08 difference in equity between the move I made, 8-5, which was taking a checker from the 8 point and hitting, and the best move, which was 13-11-6-5, taking a checker from the 6 point and hitting, and then bringing down another cover from the cover possibility from the 13 point. Another bad move here, 0.085 error. So again, it's that difference in equity that people talk about when we're talking about the size of an error. Now let's look at a doubling decision. So here I doubled the computer, and so this looks a little different, this analysis. It gives you the different equities for if I double and the computer takes versus whether I don't double at all versus if I double and the computer passes. And then the differences in those equities are over here. So me doubling gave me a better equity than not doubling. So that's why doubling was the correct decision, and the take was the correct decision by the computer. So in these doubling windows, it'll put down here what the proper cube action was. In this case, it was a double and a take. But the next one, when the computer redoubled me to 4 and I took, you can see that that was an error, that if I pass, my equity is -1, meaning I'm automatically losing a point on the game. But if I take, my equity is minus 1.084. So I'm going to lose more points on average if I take the cube. And so the difference there is again 0.084. So 0.08 to 0.16 for GNU BG is considered a bad decision. So that's why it's highlighted pink here. And you can see here it says take bad. So that's how the doubtful, bad, and very bad are calculated in GNU BG. Some of those other numbers in that window that I wanted to mention is this row here. So this row here has 6 numbers in it. And in order, they are your chances of winning the game, your chances of winning a gammon in the game, and your chances of winning a backgammon. Then for going for your opponent's chances, this is your this is your chances of losing. This is your chances of losing a gammon, and this is your chances of losing a backgammon. So that's what those 6 numbers mean. And a lot of times they'll give you an idea as to why one play was better than another. You can see how much it increased my odds of winning. So when I made this mistake, this move gave me a 45% chance of winning the game. Whereas if I would have made the right play, I would have had a 50% chance of winning the game. Not only that, the move I made gave me a 10% chance of winning a gammon, 10.7, and the right move would have given me a 13.3 chance of winning a gammon. So that's what those moves mean there. You can also hit this MWC button, and this gives some MWCs for match winning chances. And now you can see some, instead of what we call the normalized equity, those numbers we were seeing before, these are actually your match winning chances. So you can see after I made this move, my match winning chance was 48%, 48.17. So you start out with a 50% match winning chance. So only the 4th move of the game, I was down to 48. As you start getting further in the game and I'm looking like I'm going to lose 4 points, you can see that my match winning chances start going down considerably, down to 39%. And as I'm losing, almost guaranteed to lose a 4-point game, the match winning chance is down to 15%. So that's what the match winning chance button shows you there. So let's go back to that. When I finished the analyze, what popped up was the statistics. So these are the match or session statistics here. Essentially what this is showing is that there's a bunch of tabs here, and my overall rating, GNU BG, is calling me an intermediate, and GNU plays as a supernatural. So there's it has 6 or 7 words that it uses here. But more important, the thing that people talk about a lot is the error rate. So this is the Snowy error rate. Snowy was a computer program, that came before GNU BG. So it did piggybacked on that, and it shows you the Snowy error rate. And so my Snowy error rate in this match was minus 6.6. A more recent computer program, XG, or Extreme Gammon, calculates its own error rate, and it's very similar to the Snowy error rate, but a little bit different. As I understand, it's a little more strict, you might say. So my XG error rate in this game might be more like a minus 7.6. It's always going to be negative, is representing how much equity you lost, but so you want the smallest negative number possible. World-class players, can play with an XG error rate of, below minus 4, so like minus 3, minus 4. Again, this translating this to an XG error rate, this might be a minus 7, minus 8, something like that. So that's how those work. You want to try to get the lowest error rate as you can, negative error rate. And now it also breaks down your stats into checker play and cube decisions. So checker play, I had 61 total checker plays, but only 46 of them were unforced. The rest were forced. And of those, I had 2 that were doubtful, 2 bad, 3 bad, 2 very bad. So my checker play rating was intermediate overall, it says. And my cube decisions, I had 26 actual cube decisions, or possible cube decisions, but the only ones where it was even close, where I would have actually made a decision one way or the other, was only 5. So of those 5 close decisions, one was a double, one was a take, and the wrong take is shown here, and so that wrong take gave me a cube decision error rating of intermediate. So that's what those mean. You can look at luck. I usually try not to worry about luck because you can't control it. So that's how all those look. Just a couple other things I want to mention with analyzing. If you go to settings, analysis, there's some things you can do here, make changes. Again, here's those normalized equity thresholds. Doubtful is 0.04, bad is 0.08, very bad 0.16. You can change those if you want, but 0.08, as I mentioned, is in agreement with XG, their blunder rating, so I think that's a good level to keep as is. Your analysis level, this is a default Supremo, but there's some ones above that. So on Grandmaster, it'll be a little more thorough in its analysis, and consequently, it'll take longer. So I would keep this as high as you can that your computer can handle in a reasonable amount of time for you. So hopefully you can keep it at Supremo, maybe go up to Grandmaster if you have to, drop it down to World Class. There's also an analysis level if you use the tutor mode or hints. Since you want the hints pretty quickly, it's a less of a thorough analysis. So usually for eval or hint, it's going to be a lower level than for the full analysis. So that's how those settings work. And one other thing I want to mention on the analysis is if notice when you're looking at the cube decisions, there's this rollout button. So a rollout is sort of the most accurate, the most thorough way you can analyze a position. So if I highlight a particular cube decision and click rollout, it's going to do sort of rollout 1,296 trials. You can see that my estimated time left to do that is a little over 4 minutes. So if you really are interested in studying a position, a position really interests you, then I would recommend going ahead and doing the rollout, because that's going to be the most accurate analysis, but takes significantly longer. So you just can do that on the positions that you're most interested in. And you can actually stop it before it goes all the way through all the trials, and it's probably still more accurate than what you had before, since it took all this time on one position. So you can see how it changes. This particular move was my take mistake, and it was a minus 0.084 error. After doing this much rollout, if I click stop, it did 252 trials. And actually, my error got to be quite a bit less. Now it's only a 0.012 error, and it's no longer marked as a mistake. So again, there can be a fair amount of difference there if you do the rollout, and that was compared to the Supremo setting for the analysis. But in general, especially for the very bad moves, it's still going to be bad enough that it's still worth learning from and assuming that that is valid. You don't have to roll out every single error that it marks. So that's about it. The last thing I want to mention is we did analysis for a game that I played versus GNU. You can also do analysis for matches that you play against a human opponent online. So if you play on, lots of different online sites have Fibs, Grid Gammon, Daily Gammon. They all have options to export a match file. So if you export that match file, it's a standard format. Sometimes they call it the Jellyfish match format, which is another older backgammon program. But if you export that match file from another program, then you can open it up in GNU. So you would just go here, File, Open, and browse to that text file, which is going to be probably a .mat or maybe a .text file, and open that up, and then you'll be able to analyze that match from your online play. That's all. Thanks a lot for watching. Feel free to put some questions in the comments that I can answer, or maybe even make another video later. Thanks a lot.